Senator Peters, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Austin, in your confirmation hearing, you spoke of focusing on our shared interest with Pakistan. A readout from your August call with Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff contained some similar language that you expressed. My question to you, could you please elaborate for this committee on what you view as our shared interest with Pakistan today? And I'm particularly interested in how this relates with the Pakistani government's relationship with the Taliban, now that the Taliban are in power in Afghanistan.
Well, thanks, Senator. I think that one key shared interest is the prevention of a humanitarian disaster in Afghanistan or in the region. And so I think we'll continue to share that interest. I do think there is some intersection in terms of certain types of terrorist activity that I think we can both remain focused on. Again, an in-depth conversation about Pakistan probably would be better suited in a closed hearing there. So.
Very well. I understand that there were certain airplanes, helicopters, and ground vehicles that were disabled as forces left and as the Afghan forces were overrun. And right now, I don't want to talk about the operability of a Humvee or a MRAP or the pictures we saw of Taliban sitting on grounded C-130s. What concerns me more is the potential for our strategic adversaries to have some time and space to examine the technology inside those vehicles to find vulnerabilities. And even if a system has been disabled, in some ways destroyed, reverse engineering can still be used on those systems and can provide information to sophisticated adversaries that may get a hold of this. And as all of you know, we harden our supply chains to protect military technology. It's a matter of national security. So my question for you, Secretary Austin, is the department now conducting an extensive counterintelligence assessment of equipment to get a sense of what might be reverse engineered, and how do we protect against any use of that information against our forces?
We will continue to assess what's exploitable, Senator. I would flag for you that all of this equipment is not high-end equipment. Again, the equipment that we had for our use was retrograded as General Miller drew down the retrograded equipment and drew down our forces. I would also like to flag for you, sir, that while the number $84 billion has been bounced about quite a bit, that's the number that we invested in Afghan security forces over a 20-year period of time. Less than 20% of that was dedicated towards Afghan equipment. Most of that money was focused on sustainment and salaries and those types of things. So.
General McKenzie, if you could go back in time and change one thing about the strategy in the last 6 months of operations in Afghanistan, which could have alleviated some of the chaos that we saw at the end, what would it be?
In the last 6 months, Senator would, of course, infer that the decisions made were going to zero. I think I go back to, could we have gotten more people out earlier in the process? By that I mean U.S. citizens, and I know the embassy put out at least a dozen notices to U.S. citizens to leave. I know that the ambassador was very aggressive on that. I would have liked to maybe have seen done more there, more done in that regard. Additionally, perhaps to try to get more of the SIV population out. But, Senator, I think we need to recognize that if you're asking the Afghans to fight and at the same time you're bringing out the best and the brightest, that's clearly a conflicting message that you're sending them. So I don't say that lightly or recognize there wouldn't be inherent risk in taking that course of action.
So there would have been a risk doing those things.
There would have, in my judgment, yes. But that's a way that we could have, could have been more forceful with our own citizens. Although there are very strict limitations on what you can say or do to an American citizen abroad for good reason. So I think you got to trust the good judgment of the people, of the American citizens that are in Afghanistan.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Peters. Senator Kramer, please.